Dr. Lawrence Cohen once said, "Children don't say, 'I had a hard day, can we talk?' They say, 'Will you play with me?'" Wow, the first time I heard that, it stopped me cold because it's true. Your kids don't schedule time with you. They don't send calendar invites or request a formal meeting. They just show up at the door of your attention, quietly, sometimes only once, and ask if you'll come be with them. And if you're not paying attention, you can miss it. Not dramatically, not all at once, just one small moment at a time until one day you look up and realize the years went by while you were somewhere else. Let me tell you about a time when I blew it. I had just come home from a long, emotionally draining day as a pastor. And as I walked past the driveway, Ryan, 10 years old at the time, was dribbling and shooting baskets. He looked up and said, "Hey, Dad, want to play?" "No, Ryan, I'm tired," I said. "Did you finish your homework?" "Yeah." I walked on into the house. Well, about 30 minutes later, as I sat on the couch with the TV on, I could hear him through the kitchen window. Ryan was still out there, still shooting, still alone. My heart sank. I thought, what am I doing? I got up, went to the driveway, and started rebounding for him. He showed me a couple of new skills that he'd been working on, and I encouraged him. Soon it became dark. We had a great time, and we went inside. I could have easily missed that ordinary but important moment, one that I still remember today. And all it took was 20 minutes to show my son that he mattered. Kids don't really need much. They don't really need more stuff or a bigger house to live in, but at times they do need to feel that they're the most important thing in your world. And proving that can be as simple as stopping what you're doing, turning around, and showing up. Listen, most dads aren't absent because they don't care. They're absent because they're overwhelmed, distracted, and somewhere in the noise of careers and deadlines and competing demands, they've lost track of what they were actually fighting for. And the painful irony is that the men who feel this the most are often the ones who care the most. They're not checked out, they're drowning, and they know it. A recent study found that 67% of dads worry about missing special moments with their children. 78% say they wish they had more time with their kids. 82% feel their children are growing up too fast. And nearly 40% admit they've already missed at least one milestone they can't get back. According to Pew Research, 85% of dads say fatherhood is the most or one of the most important aspects of who they are as a person. These are men who love their kids deeply. They define themselves by being a dad, and yet nearly 80% of them feel they don't spend enough time with their children. That gap between what you say matters and what you actually do has a name. Psychologists call it incongruent values. And researchers tell us it's not busyness itself that causes the most stress in a man's life. It's the friction between what you believe is most important and how you actually spend your days. You feel it even when you can't name it. It's that low-grade guilt that follows you into the office and back home again, that sense that something is off, something is slipping, and you're not quite sure how to stop it. That's the problem. And I want to be honest with you about it before I offer anything else, because I think a lot of guys pick up a book or listen to a podcast about fatherhood and feel vaguely preached at, like someone who has it all figured out is wagging a finger at them. That's not what this is. I've sat in that same tension. I've raised 3 kids while building a career, juggling 2 jobs for years, trying to maintain my marriage, my friendships, and my faith. I know what it feels like to want to be fully present and also be completely spent. This is the real fight. And most dads, honestly, are losing it. Not because they're bad fathers, but because they've never been handed a clear picture of what winning actually looks like. So let me try to give you that picture today. The solution doesn't start with a schedule. It starts with honesty. Specifically, honesty about how you actually spend your time when no one else is assigning it for you. Because when we talk about not having enough time for our kids, we usually mean we don't have enough time after work, of course. But the real question is what happens after work. Let's be honest. Most of us have more spare time than we're willing to admit. It's just quietly occupied by television, by the phone, social media. Now, I'm not saying you don't deserve downtime. You do. We all need it. But being a dad is inconvenient sometimes. It asks something of you when you're already empty. That's what you signed up for. And here's the thing about that. You will not regret putting the phone down and going to play with your kid. You will deeply regret not doing so. I also want to push back on something you've probably heard your whole adult life. This idea that quality time is more important than quantity. Well, that's a comfortable lie busy parents tell themselves, and it's just not true. For children, love equals time. The research on father-child bonding is sobering. 91% of all father-child bonding occurs within the first 12 years of a child's life. 91% in the first 12 years. That window doesn't extend indefinitely. You don't get to bank time now and then cash it in later. Your presence has to be actual and consistent, not occasional and elaborate. Quality moments happen inside quantity time. You can't manufacture them on a tight schedule and call it enough. That just doesn't work. There's a concept that has shaped my understanding of fatherhood more than almost anything else, and it comes from the New Testament. And I think this applies in the real world in which we live. The Greek language has two words for time. The first is chronos, linear, chronological time. Minutes and hours, the clock on the wall. The other word is kairos, and it carries a whole different meaning. Kairos means the right time, the opportune moment. It's the place where the minutes on the clock intersect with something that actually matters. The Apostle Paul uses kairos in Ephesians 5 when he writes, "Make the most of every opportunity because the time is short." Now, not every minute, he says, but every opportunity, every kairos moment. What that means practically is this. There are ordinary moments with your kids, and then there are moments that matter at a different level. A question your teenager asks on the way home from practice that sounds casual but isn't. A Saturday morning when your 8-year-old wanders into the kitchen looking for someone to be with. The moment before lights are out when something real surfaces. Great dads learn to read those moments, to feel the difference between chronos and kairos. And they make a decision that everything else stops. Not because they say their kids matter, but because they do. And their kids feel that difference. They know when they're being fit in, and they know when they're being chosen. Every child needs to grow up knowing that when push comes to shove, their dad chooses them over convenience, comfort, and competing priorities. None of this is possible without something more foundational. And I say this because I've watched men try to change their habits without ever addressing this, and it doesn't last. Before the strategy, before the calendar, before any of the practical stuff, you have to know why you're doing it in the first place. You have to know your purpose, because motivation is a feeling, and feelings don't last. But guess what does? Purpose. When you clarify a purpose and you keep it before you, it provides accountability. Now, there's not a dad alive who holds his newborn child and thinks, "I'm not going to give this kid my very best." Of course not. Every father starts with full intention. But careers grow more demanding, material pursuits get louder, life gets chaotic, and slowly, sometimes so slowly, you don't even notice it's happening, you lose sight of what you were fighting for. You start justifying other priorities. You take the path of least resistance. You tell yourself you'll make it up later. And the days become weeks, and the weeks become years, and the drift has happened without your permission. There's a real connection between cause and courage. This is where purpose comes into play. The greater the cause, the more courage you discover to fight for it. And your children are a cause worth everything you've got. That means the courage to be honest when your work schedule is stealing something irreplaceable from your family. It means the courage to ask hard questions like, do I actually need to take this trip? Do I need to pursue this promotion? Do I need to accept this project? Do I have to actually have to? It means the courage to resist the culture around you when it's applauding what's costing you what matters at home, to stop chasing what glitters and instead to pursue what matters, the people that you love. No one, listen to this, no one can pressure you into sacrificing your family without your permission. You are not a victim of your schedule. The most courageous thing a man can do is to live according to what he actually values, even when that's expensive and unpopular. So decide what your purpose is. Write it down. You don't need an original one. You need an authentic one. And here's a purpose that I want to offer you. Commit to being your child's father friend. That means being the father who is present and engaged, not perfect, but present and engaged, who leads with both authority and affection. When that's the deeper yes inside of you, when you know with clarity what you're living for, it becomes far easier to say no to everything trying to crowd it out. You're not gritting your teeth to give things up. You're choosing something better. Christopher Walken once said, "If you know how quickly people forget the dead, you will stop living to impress people." Now think about that. Think about what happens when your funeral ends. The tears dry, the flowers fade. Within days, your boss has begun looking for your replacement, and most people you've tried to impress in your life have moved on. You are never as central to other people's lives as you might imagine, and once you're gone, you'll be forgotten at an amazingly fast pace. The approval you've been chasing, the reputation you've been building, the material things you've acquired, the image that you've been maintaining, none of it lasts the way you think it will. You know what does last? The way you made your children feel. Whether they knew they were chosen, whether they saw you show up when it was hard, whether they felt, not just heard, that they mattered more than your comfort or your convenience. 20 years from now, on those occasions when your kids talk about you to their own children, they won't be describing your job title or your income or the things that you bought. They'll be talking about whether you were there, whether you were present and warm and fully engaged, whether you were happy with them. That's the legacy. That's the war, and it's worth winning. Psalm 90:12 says a prayer, "Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom." To count your days means to separate them one from the other, to make each day special. So begin doing that today. You're not going to do it perfectly. Life is going to interrupt your plans. You're going to drift. When that happens, for goodness sake, don't quit. Start again. If you miss a meal, you don't stop eating. Of course not. You eat again. Every week is a new chance to put things that are most important in their place. So, Dad, I encourage you to go for it. Start again. Lean in, lead well, and love big.